how to create an Excel stock control inventory template here in Excel. So step by step, we're gonna see how can you create it from scratch. Here I have my product registration where I can see all the products that I have in stock, and I can also see how much I just received for this product, how much the sales is, and how much I have here in the stock right now, or I mean the balance. And one cool thing here is instead of just manually typing the products names, you can just select with this list that you have, and instead of just manually typing the SKU, for example, the brand name, the unity of measurement, you can just select the item that you have, and all these informations in all these columns is gonna auto-update for you. And whenever you add a new product here to, let's say, to make a sale or to receive the product, the balance, the receive, the sales, and the balance is gonna auto-update for you. And one more interesting fact in here is the summary here, where you can see the total quantity that you just bought and sold, the total cost, and the total receives. And whenever you just use a filter here in Excel, so let's say the total receives is equal to 4 right now because I have just 4 receives, 1, 2, 3, 4. However, if you just use a filter, let's say I want to see all the products that I just bought in the January 2 and in January 3, I can just click OK, and the receives is gonna auto update for me. Instead of just showing 4, now it's showing 2 because I just have 2 receives, and the total cost is auto update 2 and the total quantity is auto update 2. So let's find out how can we create this Excel stock control inventory template step by step from scratch. Let's go. The first spreadsheet that I want to start with is the product registration. And here it's a very important spreadsheet because we're gonna just, as the name said, we're gonna registration all your products. And as we just registration here in the other spreadsheets here in this workbook, we don't need to just manually type in the name, the SKU, let's say the way. You can just click and select. We can create a data validation list, so it's much easier to use. So this is why it's very important to have a product registration. We can just registration our products, and then we don't need to type it in manually, the names and so on. And one thing that is important too, in the product registration, you can just make the balance, and that way we can see how much you have in all the specific products, how much we have in the stock right now. So let me just right click here in the name of the cell, click rename, and I'm gonna give it a name, let's say items. Okay, enter. And here in the cell A3, I'm gonna give it the column's name. So let's start with the product name, and here I can put some products names like item A, item B, item C. However, you can use it to just insert your real product names. Okay. In the second column that I have, I'm gonna use the SKU. That is very important to distinguish each one of the products that you have. So let's say I have products that have the same name, however my SKU is different. So this is what is important, to have different SKU. Let me just insert one more SKU here, another one here, and another one here. Okay. Now, just after the SKU, in another column, I can use the brand name, and then the supplier name, and then the UOM, that is the unity of measurement. And it's also very important because let's say you just bought a product in meters and want to sell it in, let's say, centimeters, or your client want some inches of the product. So that way you can do the math to just transform meters into inches, so let's say that way. So this is why it's very important to have the unity of measurement that you just, the original formula of your product is, okay? So another important column here is the receive column, and then the sales column, and then the balance. And the column of the balance is also very important because you're gonna be able to see how much you have in the stock of each one of the products. So we can see if you are out of stock, or if you have a bunch of items in stock, you can see everything here. Let me just select all these column here and make it a little bit bigger. That way I can see everything. Okay, it's good. Now with the brand name, I just gonna just fill it in. Brand 001, for example, 002, and so on. Supplier name, and the unity of measurement, you can use, let's say, meter. We can use centimeters. We can use box. You can use unity itself, or we can use inches, of course. And here in receive, sales, and balance, we're gonna use a formula. Actually, in receive and sales, we're gonna use a function, and in the balance, we're gonna use a formula that we can just create right now. So equal sign, everything that we just receive it minus the sales. Okay, so it's a subtraction. We are just subtraction the sales from the receive. Enter. Now I can just click here, hold, and drag down to make sure all the rows contain the same formula. Now that we just finished here, let's make some adjustments in the layout and the design. So let me just select the first cell that I have, the title, clicking Home tab, put it in bold, and increase the font for 14, let's say. Now I'm gonna select all the first row that I have for the titles of the columns, Home, bold. I'm gonna paint it in white, let's say that way, and then I'm gonna just paint it to the background of this blue right here. I'm gonna just align everything in the middle. And then I'm gonna select everything again, Home, and the line in the middle. Okay. Now one thing that I can do here is just click here in the Reveal tab and then remove the grind lines, because that way we just have a more clean look without the lines in between columns and rows. So here the first thing, the first spreadsheet is just done. We create everything that we just gonna use, and after we just created another spreadsheet that's gonna be the receive and sales, we can move on here and just create the function that's gonna be in receive and in the sales. Okay, now let's move on and create another sheet here, and let me just right click, rename, and this is gonna be the receive spreadsheet. In this first cell right here, I'm gonna just give it the name that is receive. I'm gonna select it, clicking Home tab, put it in bold, and increase the font for 14 because it's easy to see. And here in the row number 3, I can just give it the name for the columns. So let's start with the date. That is important to know the date that we just received the product and the product name itself. And here one interesting fact is, as we just created the product registration before, I don't need to manually type it in the product name. I can just click in the cell, and just a data validation is going to pop out for me. So I can select in the list what product I want to use. So this is why it's important, as I said, to create a product validation. Let's just continue here, the product name, the SKU, and all these informations like SKU, the brand name, is gonna just be auto-filled. Whenever you just select a new product here, the SKU, the brand name, the unity of measurement is gonna be auto-updated, because this is why it's important to have the product registration, the brand name, the quantity, and then we have the unity of measurement, and then the unity cost, and then we have the total cost, and then some description, if you wish, description. Okay, now let me just select everyone here and increase the size of the column a little bit to make it easy to see. Okay, now let me just select everyone here, select Home tab, put it into bold, align everyone in the middle, just paint it in white, and give it a green color, let's say that way. And now I can just create here a date. So for example, today, let's say is 1st of January 2024, let's say that way. I can just click, hold, and drag it down a little bit to the row number 20. Now I can just use a product name here. However, instead of just typing manually the product name here, I can just create a data validation. So whenever I just click in this cell here, it's gonna appear for me a list with the products that I have. So it's much easier to just fill it in the column B. So let me just click here in date, and then I go here, data tools, data validation, and I'm gonna, instead of just using allow any values, I'm gonna allow a list And my list is gonna be, let me just click here in this up arrow, and then I'm gonna go here to the items spreadsheet, and I'm gonna select all my product names. I can just select a little bit more because I'm gonna just use more products in the future, okay? So let me just double click here, okay? And yeah, our list is already here in the screen. So whenever I just insert a new product or just update this list, it's already gonna appear here for me in the data validation. And to make sure all the rows contain this data validation, I can just click here in the corner of the cell, click, hold, and drag down. Okay, one more. Okay, good. Everything is done here now. So let's say here in the first product, I want to select the item A, and then the item D, and then the item B, and so on. So it's working. Now I need to the SKU and the brand name, the unity of measurement to be auto updated. So I can use equal sign VLOOKUP function, or if you have in your Excel the XLOOKUP, you can use it too. So let me just use the VLOOKUP because I know all Excel versions have the VLOOKUP, so I'm gonna use it. The lookup value is gonna be the item A, comma, and my table array that I'm gonna use to just searching for this item is gonna be the item spreadsheet, and I'm gonna select, let's say, all the columns to the column A to the column, let's say, column A, E, okay? From column A to column E, comma, and what is the column index number? I want to return here the SKU. So the first column that I have is the product name, the SKU is the column number 2. So it's the number 2 that I want to just type it in here, 2, comma, and I want to exactly match. So let me just double click it, close parentheses, and press enter. Now I have my SKU here. And whenever I just change the item, the SKU is gonna auto update for me. So that way is an excellent option to just use the VLOOKUP here in Excel with this practical example. Let me just click, hold, and drag down to make sure all the rows contain the same formula, the same function. And of course, we're gonna get this error here because Excel does not have this blank cell in your list. So this is why we're gonna just receiving this error. To just hide this error, we can use just before the VLOOKUP function, if error formula. So let me just, if error, double click it, if error, if the value that is our VLOOKUP function returns some error, comma, I can just make it blank. So open and close quotations mark, close parentheses, enter, and now I'm gonna click, hold, and drag down or double click here in the corner of the cell. Now every time there is a error, the VLOOKUP function does not return ever anything, okay? The brand name and the unity of measurement is gonna also use the VLOOKUP function. The only thing that is gonna change is the position of the column, because if you just take a close look here, the SKU is the column number 2, the brand name number 3, and the unity of measurement is the column number 5. So I can just open here, select everyone, Control C to copy, and then in the brand name, I just double click the cell to open it, Control V. And now instead of just using the column number 2, I can change it to column number 3. And in the unity of measurement, I just open the cell, Control V, and instead of just using the column number 2, I'm gonna use the number 5 instead. Enter. Okay. Now I can just click, hold, and drag down the formula of the brand name and the formula of the unity of measurement. I can do the same thing. And whenever I just change the item, we can see that all these 3 columns, SKU, brand name, and the unity of measurement is gonna auto update for me. Now one thing that we can just do here is just type in the quantity. So let's say the item A in the January 1st of 2024, I just bought 100 meters. And the item C, I just bought 2 boxes, and the item B, I just bought 500 centimeters. And the unity cost is gonna be, let's say, $10 here per meter, and here is gonna be $12.50, and here is gonna be, let's say, 50 cents per centimeters. And the total cost, we're gonna just use a formula that is equal the unity cost times the quantity. Enter. Now I can just click, hold, and drag down to the line number 20, okay? Here we have this error because instead of just use the dot, I use the comma. So I made a mistake here. So let me just correct it. Okay. Now instead of just using it like normal numbers, we can just select everyone here. And here in Home tab, we can put it everyone with this accounting number format. Now we have the dollar sign in the beginning. The description, you don't need to fill it in. You don't need to type it in anything. It's just you can use or not. And one thing that I just can finish here is select every one of this data that I just inserted in, clicking Home tab, and just align everyone here in the middle. And now I can just, let's say, transform it into a table. Why is it important to just transform this into a table? Because let's say I just want to enter here with a new information with a new row. The table is gonna just create for me the new data validation here is going to code for me all the format, all the formulas, all the functions that I just used. So if I just do not use the table, even if I just use a new row and insert new informations, I still need to just scope all the formulas and functions that I made in the previous row, and then to cope to the new row. However, if I just want to automatically do it, I can just transform all these informations that I have as a table. So let me select everyone here, click insert, and then table. Make sure to select this option here, my table has headers, and then click OK. Now instead of just using these blue lines, I can change it to table design. I can click in table design and change it, so let's say to some type of green color. This one right here looks good. Okay. Now one more thing that I want to use here, let me just show you. If I just insert a new information here, so let's say January 18, 2024, and I'm gonna press enter, the table in a smart way just create for me a new row just using all the informations that I need. So I have here my VLOOKUP function, everything is working. And one last thing I want to create here in the receive spreadsheet is just a small summary. So I want to use here the total quantity, and then the total cost, and then also the total receives. Let me just select everyone here. I'm gonna click here in Home tab, put everyone in bold, align everyone in the middle, and just change the font. So let's say I can use a green color, put everyone here with the white text. And here in the total quantity, I want to know how much in these unities, how much in quantity I just bought of the products. So one thing to think about it is if I just use the sum function to just sum all this column for me, maybe I have a problem, because let's do it with the sum function that I'm going to show you if this practical situation. So sum function, double click it, and I want to sum all the quantity column. So let me select all this column here. I'm gonna press enter, and the total that I just bought, let's say 62. I know that the unity of measurement, I have meters, centimeters, box, but whatever. I just want to know the total quantity that I just bought. This is not gonna work because if the sum function, because if I just gonna use here the filters, and let's say I don't want to see all the January month, but just the day 2 and day 3, okay? If I just click here, okay, the sum functions is still showing for me the 602 as the result. However, it's not correct, because the correct result needs to be 502, not 602. This is because we just using the sum function, and the sum function is just sum for me all the row. And it doesn't matter if I just using the filter or not, if I hide some rows or not, the sum functions is still gonna show for me all the sum of all the row that I just select, all the column that I select, okay? So this is why it's not a good idea to use the sum function. Instead of using the sum function, we can use the subtotal function, because the subtotal function can return for me the sum of all the column that I have. However, instead of just sum all the values in the column. It's gonna sum for me. It's gonna just display. It's gonna just show for me all the results that is gonna not filter it or that is not hide it. So let me just select here a sum function inside the subtotal, double click it, comma, and my column that I want to sum is all the quantity column. So let's select all this column, close parentheses, enter. Now it's returned for me the same result, that is 1602. However, if I just use here the filters, and let's say I want to see just the day 2 of the January, I'm gonna click OK. And now the subtotal function is gonna update for me to display just the result that is appearing in my spreadsheet right now. So this is a good idea to use here when you just have a large data set with a bunch of rows and maybe you want to filter some informations and to hide something. The subtotal is going to update for you. The total cost, I'm going to do the same thing here, equal sign, subtotal, double click it. I want to use a sum function, so sum, double click it, comma, and for the total cost, I want to select all this last column here, the total cost, enter. And for the total of receives, I want to know how much receives that I actually have. So let's say here, I just have 1, 2, and 3 receives right now. If I just use a new row, I'm gonna have 4 receives. So I want to count it, the rows that I have. So equal subtotal, double click it. Instead of just use a sum function, I can use a count a function, double click it, comma, and I'm gonna use the product name as the column, as the reference column. So let me select everyone here, enter, and OK. Now we have our subtotal or summary here above the spreadsheet with the subtotal function, and now we're done with the receive spreadsheet. One thing that we can actually do right now is just came back here for items and just start to use this receive column. Of course, you do not have yet the sales spreadsheet, however, you can just use in the receive spreadsheet. So here I want to know how much receive I have for the item A, item B, item C, and so on. So instead of just using the sum function and sum all the column with the quantity that I have, I need to specifically sum just the rows with the item A and then the item B and then the item C. To make sure it's possible, I can use the sum if function. Sum if. Let me just double click it. 1, 2. OK. What is my range? My range is gonna be here in receive, and it's gonna be all my product name. So let me select everyone here, comma. And what is my criteria? My criteria is right here in the items. It's the item A, the first criteria that I have, and then I'm gonna use the item B, item C, and so on. So, however, once we just click, hold, and drag down the cell, we don't need to change the criteria because the criteria is gonna change itself, comma. And my sum range is again here in the receive. They're gonna select all the quantity. Let me select everyone here, enter, and now I already have my receive here. Let me just click, hold, and drag down. Now let's say I want to add one more time the item A. It's with 100 in receive, and it's correct because if I just check here manually, I can see the item A have 100 in the quantity received. So let me add one more time the item A just to check if the function that we just made here is working perfectly. Quantity now I want to just add 5 meters. And the cost for these meters is going to be, let's say, $12. Okay. Now we're going to go back here for items. And yeah, the receive is just sum for me the 2 values that I have. This value right here, that is 100, and that one here, that is 5. Oh, one thing that I want to make here is in the total cost is just to make sure this number is in the accountably. So let me select it, clicking home, and then I'm gonna just use this $sign here. Okay, now it's corrected. Now we can move on to our final spreadsheet. That's gonna be the sales. However, instead of just created a new sheet manually, we can just duplicate it, this spreadsheet right here, and we can just press the control key, click in the spreadsheet and drag to the right. Okay, that way you can duplicate it, this spreadsheet. Instead of just using receive as the name, I can use sales. And instead of just using green, I can use red, for example. And instead of using the unity cost, I can use unity sale and total sale too. Let me just delete these informations. Oh, no, not delete everything, just the product name and the quantity and the column of unity sales. You need to be careful because you have here some functions. You can't delete it because if you delete it, you're gonna need to create it everything again. Let me select the headers and then I'm gonna paint it in red. And these green rows that I have, I'm gonna change it for, let's say, I can use this orange one. It's good. And here in this above headers, I can just paint it in head too. And instead of just using receive as the name, I can put it sales, for example. And now I have my receive and sales spreadsheet in Excel. Let me just insert here some items. Item A. Let's just use the item A and item C. Let's see what I just bought. Yes, item A and C. Okay. Now let me just go back here to sales. The item A, let's see, say I just sold 100 meters for $20 the meter. And here the item C, I just sold one box for $100. Okay, now if I came back here for my first spreadsheet, the items, I cannot see the sales column with the function yet. So let's just use some function here to make sure we will get the result of the sales, and finally that way you can use the balance column. So let's make here the sales column work using the same function that we used before in the receive column, that is SUMIF. So equal sign SUMIF function, double click it. Our range is gonna be here, is in the sales, it's gonna be all the product name, comma, and my first criteria is gonna be the item name, that is item A, comma, and my sum range is gonna be, let's say here, the quantity, and then enter. Now I can just click, hold, and drag down. Okay, now I have the receive column that is working, the sales column is working, and the balance is working now. One thing that I can do here is just apply a format condition to just create a more visual effect. So let me select everyone here, click here in Home tab, Format, Condition Formatting, Color Scale, and just select this first option right here. And whenever you have a higher number, big number here, let's say 500, it's gonna be green. And whenever you have a regular or not a great and not too small number, it's gonna be yellow, and the lower number is gonna be in red. I can just make it easy to see, so let me select everyone here, put it in bold, and yeah, now I have my balance, I have my sales and my receives. Now we're done with your spreadsheet, with your stock control or inventory template here in Excel. I really hope this Excel tutorial can help you out, and if you have any questions and suggestions for the next videos, just comment down below, and I see you tomorrow. As every day has a new video, I see you there.